Great. Can you hear me? Is this on? Okay, I think it is. Good, because I move around a lot. Just one of those things. Thanks so much for having me here, Dr. Sykes. Thanks for the great introduction. I am Jamie Erbs from HP Software. I'm the CTO of HP Software and Solutions, based in Dallas, Texas. So there's a little bit of an accent there that you might have picked up. But I office out of Palo Alto, so that means a lot of time on the plane. But I'm here today to really talk about the impact of this cloud phenomenon in enterprise IT. And we do see a lot of impact, a lot of shift that's now ahead of us. So let's go through these slides, and I'm happy to speak with any of you afterwards if you have any questions to follow on. So first, a few stats. Dr. Sykes mentioned something about the consumer space, some beginnings in the consumer space. Yeah, we see a lot of traffic. We see a lot of new information that's been generated in the cloud. And just a few of them, I don't know how many of you are out there actively Twittering or Facebooking right now even, but there's a lot of data that's being generated by these new services that we've come to enjoy as consumers. Also, new types of data, things like video. And here's where we start to see that crossing, some of the new information that we've started connecting with other humans on a consumer basis that's now moving over and infiltrating into the enterprise business. Many of you probably have already seen your marketing departments creating videos and uploading them, and then, having celebrations about how many hits or how many views they're getting on their new marketing videos. And of course, email. Email, we heard a little bit yesterday about the spam numbers. They're just increasing. But from a business perspective, email has really evolved to be one of those most important mission-critical applications within enterprise IT. And here it is, dependent on this thing we refer to as the cloud. And in many times, enterprises are looking to shift their key email services into the cloud very specifically. Blogging, another type of new way to connect with other humans and share opinions, share ideas. We've seen a shift, a very real phenomenon here about the level of trust that people place in the opinions that now appear in blog sites. So what does that mean to all of the millions of dollars we put into marketing if really the trust comes from something like free information coming from consumers? And then some very real statistics and numbers that reflect some deliberate steps that some clients have taken to utilize cloud services towards very real business problems. And these are real examples. I've already mentioned the move to some applications in the cloud. New York Times with their digitization processes and using EC2 to help facilitate that. So there's some very real examples now of real business problems being solved by cloud services. So what does that mean for us? Well, first of all, in understanding what cloud is and where it is, cloud is not necessarily a net new thing for us today. It started really, it has its roots in the 90s, I believe. I refer to this as Cloud One era. And in that era, what we saw was an emergence of internet-enabled commerce. Through this time period, we saw web design emerging. And many of you might have been in those teams. I had a ponytail then. Some of you might have as well. But the team that basically was the very creative team doing the web design, take them off into the basement or to the other building and let them do their thing. We tended to create three-tiered architectures that more or less stood alone. They were designed in and of themselves. The infrastructure, the security models, the application design. It was all done because it was all pretty new then. We pretty much designed things in an entire stack, and we managed them as such. IT, traditionally though, the IT organization was managed more or less in an asset-centric model. Managed servers, we managed mainframes, we managed network. We had these very deliberate asset-centric silos in IT. So what we saw, and as mentioned, I was at a company called LoudCloud, where we developed a hosting environment that facilitated this web design or three-tiered architecture in a hosted environment. Customers would bring their applications, all of the infrastructure and security was already figured out, networking was already there, internet access already there. It was a cloud that was fine-tuned for the needs of web-based, three-tiered web-based applications. And so through that learning experience, What we saw next was where we're at now. And now there's a focus really towards low-cost IT services. So we hear a lot when we start talking about cloud, a lot of us talk about infrastructure as a service or email as a service. Those familiar IT services that we all know and love. That still is our focus right now. But we've seen now an emergence with better facilitation in the types of applications we can write. We see Web 2.0 and SOA-based architectures that have evolved. We've also seen a move now that these applications, these web-based applications have become a little more mainstream in IT. They've kind of come back into the mainstream IT way of organization with an IT service-centric approach, perhaps, but still managing, say, servers and network and storage back in the silos of those realms, in those domains. So we've seen that move as well. So asset centricity really still reigns under the covers, but a veneer of IT services like email services or infrastructure or web services sitting on the top. Where we're headed, though, and the next real disruption that we're seeing and that we're feeling is really the everything as a service. So as you saw the emergence of real business services that have come forward, things like Salesforce.com. I mean, what kind of a disruption was that, you know? All of a sudden now you're not buying software, you're not buying infrastructure, you're not building the solution, you're basically buying into a subscription-based model that gives you the solution lock, stock, and barrel. But what we're seeing next generation and what we believe is about to come are new business services that will enable us to do things we haven't done before. Yesterday in the keynote you might have heard Mark Olson refer to security services that he was now performing based on data collected across the cloud, service that he could now deliver that they couldn't do before. But the cloud is now enabling this because the pervasiveness of the data, the millions of collection points that they now have access to, it now facilitates this type of a service and this new business that they wouldn't have had before. So we will see more of that, more of a data-oriented and context-aware set of services that will emerge in what we call Cloud 3 era of services. So back to our reality of enterprise IT. What we have is, I mean, how many of you have a boss? I have a boss. And they always want more, better, faster, cheaper. And what we're seeing is, you know, they get on the plane. They're looking at the latest American, in my case,